Hey there, and welcome. Ever feel like you're hearing a different language when people talk about India's stock markets? Well, you're in exactly the right spot. Today, we're going to demystify the two big players, the BSE and the NSE. So, let's just jump right in.
I mean, you hear it constantly on the news, don't you? The Sensex is up, or the Nifty just hit a record high. But what does that actually mean? What are these things? Well, that's what we're here for. We're going to break it all down so you know exactly what they're talking about.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of the BSE and the NSE, let's take one step back. Let's start with the really big idea. Why do stock markets even exist in the first place?
At its heart, it's actually a pretty simple idea. Think of it like a giant meeting place. On one side, you've got companies, right? They need cash to build new factories, to innovate, to grow. And on the other side, you've got people like you and me, investors who have some savings and are looking for a place to put that money to work. The stock market is just the place where these two sides come together.
And that meeting place has an official name, a stock exchange. It's the whole setup, the platform, the rules, the technology that makes sure when you buy or sell a piece of a company, a share, it's all done safely and by the book. All right, now that we have that foundation, let's zoom in and talk about the two main exchanges right here in India.
So you've got two main players. First, there's the Bombay Stock Exchange, the BSE. It was established way back in 1875. Then, much more recently in 1992, the National Stock Exchange, or NSE, was born. And it really shook things up by introducing modern, fully electronic trading to the country.
And that 1875 date is a really big deal. I mean, let that sink in for a second. The BSE isn't just old, it is the oldest stock exchange in all of Asia. That's a huge piece of financial history, right there.
Okay, so we have these massive marketplaces with thousands of companies. But that brings up a problem, right? How on earth do you get a quick snapshot of how the market is doing on any given day?
I mean, it's a huge challenge. We're talking about nearly 7,000 companies listed across both exchanges. You can't possibly check every single one to see if the market is having a good day or a bad day. It's impossible.
And that is where something called a market index comes to the rescue. It's a really clever solution. Instead of trying to watch all 7,000 companies, an index just picks a smaller group, a sample of the biggest, most influential companies, and tracks them instead.
This is probably the best way to think about it. An index is basically a barometer for the stock market's health. You know how a barometer tells you if a storm is coming? Well, a market index tells you about the general mood of the market. If the index is going up, it's a pretty good sign that overall things are positive. If it's going down, well, you get the picture.
So, now that we know what an index is, let's meet the two most famous ones in India. These are the names you hear all the time. First up, for the Bombay Stock Exchange, or BSE, you have the Sensex. The Sensex tracks the 30 largest, most traded stocks on the exchange. Just 30. So when you hear the Sensex is up, it just means that, on average, those 30 big companies are having a good day.
And then, for the National Stock Exchange, the NSE, we have the NSE 50. The name kind of gives it away, right? It does the exact same thing as the Sensex, but instead of 30 stocks, it tracks the top 50 companies listed on the NSE.
Okay, we've covered a lot. So let's just pull it all together now and look at a quick side-by-side comparison to make sure it's all crystal clear. This chart lays it out perfectly. You've got the BSE, established way back in 1875, Asia's oldest. Its index is the Sensex, and that tracks 30 stocks. Then you have the NSE, established in 1992, much newer. Its index is the Nifty 50, and that one tracks 50 stocks. Pretty straightforward when you see it like this, isn't it?
And this quote really brings us full circle. So the next time you're listening to the news and you hear the Sensex is rising or the Nifty is up, you'll know exactly what that means. It's a signal that the biggest, most influential companies in the country are doing well and that investors are feeling pretty optimistic.
So there you have it. Now you know the difference between the BSE and the NSE, and what the Sensex and Nifty are all about. The next time you see those numbers, you won't just be hearing noise, you'll understand the story they're telling. Which leads to the next big question, right? What makes them move? And where do you think they're headed next? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.